Welcome to the Explainer. So glad you're here. Look, we are jumping right in today because we've got to talk about this massive crisis hitting real estate right now. And more importantly, we're going to unpack a strategic retention playbook built specifically to solve it. So whether you're a master franchisor, a local broker, or just someone who follows real estate economics, you're going to want to hear this. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for the Explainer. 1. An industry in chaos. 2. The agent survival crisis. 3. The one receipt solution. 4. The ROI of retention. And finally, 5. Surviving the audit era.
All right, Section 1. An industry in chaos, navigating macroeconomic shifts. Let's get into it. So, to really grasp the strategic challenges facing franchisors and their brokers today, we have to look at the macro picture. Let's anchor this chaos with a pretty wild reality check. Nationally, real estate sales are sitting at 20 to 30-year lows. We aren't just looking at a little dip, right? This is a historic freeze. And honestly, if you adjust for population growth, on a per capita basis, we might literally be looking at the lowest transaction volumes in recorded history. That is the intense baseline environment we're working in.
And you can totally see the fallout from this. Just look at the aggressive M&A activity happening everywhere. When home sales shrink this dramatically, aggressive industry consolidation is just bound to follow. Up at the top corporate tier, master franchisors like Remax, for example, are actually becoming acquisition targets just to consolidate market share. Meanwhile, right down at the ground level, local associations are rolling up and merging. We just saw this with Miami and Broward County. They're doing whatever it takes to survive the storm.
So, with transaction volumes tanking, franchisors and brokers are essentially forced into these rapid survival strategies. First, they're pouring money into proprietary tech stacks and national MLS systems just to stand out. At the same time, they're desperately trying to cut operational costs to protect those shrinking margins. But here's the absolute most critical piece: optimizing their spend around agent retention. Why? Because massive numbers of agents are leaving the industry, and we just aren't seeing new agents coming in to replace them.
Moving on to Section 2, the agent survival crisis, the human cost.
Now let's zoom in from that high-level corporate strategy down to the micro level. Let's look at an executive summary of what real estate agents are actually dealing with today. This chart right here, it's a stark reality check. A massive 60% of real estate agents have been forced to turn to the gig economy or pick up side hustles just to keep their heads above water. The days where the vast majority of agents survived purely on traditional real estate sales, well, those days are pretty much gone. That's only about 40% of the pool right now.
And what this means is that agents are facing some incredibly intense dual pressures. First up, severe financial strain. Commission revenues are basically at rock bottom because of the housing freeze, but thanks to inflation, their everyday costs of living and doing business are skyrocketing. And second, this creates immense mental health strain. For agents out there right now, financial well-being is literally their #1 life pressure. Brokers absolutely have to find a way to alleviate this pain if they want to keep their teams together. Which brings us to Section 3, the one receipt solution, a strategic remedy.
This is where things get really fascinating. There is actually a strategic remedy that perfectly connects the struggling agent's needs with the stressed broker's retention goals. And I'm just going to give you the magic number right out of the gate: $20,000. This solution is designed to unlock up to $20,000 in tax-free cash out of a brokerage company and put it straight into the agent's wallet or sole proprietorship. I mean, imagine handing that kind of immediate, tangible relief to an agent who is totally stressed out over inflation and a frozen market. It's a game changer. So let's clearly define the one receipt value proposition for franchisors and brokers. Essentially, it's a comprehensive value proposition and app. For the agent, it delivers that critical tax-free cash, highly customized financial education, and automated receipt management. But for the franchisors and brokers, it serves as an absolutely essential, existential retention tool to keep their businesses afloat during this massive economic downturn.
Mechanically, here's how it works. It secures up to the first $20,000 in commission income entirely tax-free, creating a vital tax shield for 2026 and well beyond. This directly offsets the massive inflation crisis agents are facing. And remember that 60% of agents we talked about who are in the gig economy? Well, this tool adds immense value for them too, by helping them legally and efficiently manage the expenses for their non-real estate gig income. It covers all the bases.
All right, Section 4, the ROI of retention, the broker's bottom line.
We've talked about how this saves the agent, but let's look at the financial logic for the brokers and franchisors. The financial power here is just incredible. For every single dollar a broker invests, it translates into an exceptional $30 of tax-free cash value for their agent.
That brilliantly illustrates an ROI in excess of 30 to 1. It's basically the perfect thank you reward to retain your top 20% of producing agents, while also serving as a brilliant monetization play for the remaining 80%. But this isn't just about being nice, right? It's about playing defense. We have to look at the very real threat of churn. Up in Canada, we saw Royal LePage lose a ton of brokers to Remax. We're talking thousands of agents just walking out the door. Mitigating that kind of churn is vital. Brokers know that desk fees and tech fees are almost impossible to increase right now. So using one receipt totally offsets the pain of those inflexible fees. It gives agents a massive reason to stay loyal to the brand, especially when those franchise contracts come up for renewal. I really want you to lock this quote into your mind. Economic welfare of agent equals economic welfare of broker. It is a 100% symbiotic relationship. Wall Street analysts prove this all the time. A franchisor's true value is entirely based on the size of their agent pool. A brokerage is completely revenue dependent on the agents they've invested in. So an agent walking out the door is vastly more expensive than the cost of implementing a 30 to 1 retention tool. It just makes financial sense.
Okay, final section. Section 5, Surviving the Audit Era, the non-negotiable reality. So up until now, we've really been talking about the carrot, the tax-free cash. But now we have to talk about the looming regulatory stick that makes this whole thing non-negotiable. The crucial point here is simple. No receipt, no deduction, or eligible tax-free expense. And let's be totally honest with ourselves. Sales professionals are notoriously terrible at keeping track of old coffee receipts. But tax authorities have drawn a very hard line. If you don't have the paperwork, you get zero benefits, period. And this regulatory threat is escalating fast. Here is how it's playing out. Step 1, tax departments are actively adopting OECD directives that specifically target self-employment income. Step 2, the mandatory governmental paperwork isn't going away, it's dramatically increasing. And step 3, because of all this, the likelihood of facing an audit for gig or self-employed income has absolutely skyrocketed. And look, an audit is a massive, stressful distraction. It completely takes an agent away from doing their actual job, which is selling real estate. So here's how the One Receipt app steps in to make agents essentially bulletproof. Yes, it manages the actual receipts to protect against audits, but it goes way further by addressing the massive educational gaps out there. It provides customized financial and tax law education completely for free. Plus, it features this great webinar strategy that actually fulfills an agent's mandatory yearly training hours requirements. It's truly an all-in-one protective shield. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. With everything we've talked about today, historic transaction volumes totally tanking, inflation crushing personal wallets, and aggressive government audits rapidly on the rise, can you really afford to let your agents face this chaos alone? Empowering your team with a one-receipt value proposition isn't just a nice perk, it's the ultimate survival strategy for your franchise right now. Thanks so much for joining me to break this all down, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.